Easy does it. You know, when I was in a situation that seemed like it was out of control, and I went to the Unity Village Peace Chapel, and I was just, my hair was on fire. Mentally speaking, I was just, running around like a hamster in a treadmill. And I sat down and I looked at that wall that says, "Peace, be still." How many people have been to Unity Village Peace Chapel? It's just the most wonderful, peaceful place. And I looked at it, "Peace, be still," and I started getting quieter and quieter and quieter. And what came over me was, this was about 30 years ago, it was detach, disengage, disentangle, those three words. I detach, I disengage, and I disentangle. Together, I detach, I disengage, and I disentangle. And I just let that wash over me. As I slowly began to release and release, I still didn't know what to do. Because I had all these plans, I had all these ideas of what needed to happen. I wanted to fix things. I wanted to get out here and change the people. I wanted to change the circumstances in life. Instead of realizing the circumstances are what they are, and the only thing I have control over is what? My own consciousness. As a friend of mine once said, pigeons do what pigeons do. It's your job not to sit under the pigeon tree. And the pigeon tree was my own thoughts and feelings about the situation. So I began to feel a little bit better, and as I began to get up from my seat, I looked over where I never looked before, and there was that phone that connects you directly to Silent Unity. You go over there and you can just pick it up and somebody picks it up on the other end. Well, I didn't do that. I didn't really want to talk to anybody. But right next to the phone, there was a sheet of paper and an angel. Somebody had written just for me, "The battle is not yours. The battle is not yours." And I realized that I was running around with my hair on fire trying to make everything change. Trying to change every circumstance, every person, every phone that rings, everything that happens, every place that goes on. Trying to fix it, running around, trying to make it happen. And also, internally, running around trying to change all the circumstances within my personality, trying to make everything, so. And a couple of things happened. Soon thereafter, I went out. I was invited to speak at a church in Montana, and I went to a Western store. And they had cowboy hats there, and I did not buy a cowboy hat. But they had little pins that people put on their cowboy hats, and there was one of the pins that said, "I am perfect just the way I am." Together, "I am perfect just the way I am." I was conflicted because I thought, how can I be perfect just the way I am? I got to change circumstances. I got to make changes within me. Change, I love it. Bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. Together, change, I love it. Bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. And as I meditated on it, I realized that the only way I could ever make any changes that would be lasting would be if I would accept myself as I was. And the only way in conditions out here could ever change is if I would emotionally accept that they were where they were exactly as they were, even as I sought to perhaps change them. And I had a neighboring religious science minister, a woman named Helen Street. She was, this was like 30 years ago, and she was telling me about how she had quit smoking recently, maybe 3 months before, and she'd lost a lot of weight. And she said, "You know how I did it? I've been trying for years. I thought I wasn't okay at my weight and smoking. I thought it was that I wasn't whole and free and perfect in the mind and eyes of God. And when I finally accepted myself smoking and accepted myself at the weight I was, then I could make the changes. So instead of trying so hard to make the behavioral things, although I did that, I worked instead on finding the acceptance within my being. I am perfect just the way I am. Getting in touch with that. And not running around with her hair on fire trying to make all the changes out there, but going within, making the difference in the changes where you can make the changes. We run around doing needless battle. There was a knight. Sir Knight came up on his bloody horse, limping, and he was all disheveled, came up to the castle, and he called out to the castle so they'd lower the gate. He says, "Sire, I have endeavored to defeat thine foes in the east. I have done battle, pillaging and robbing all of thine enemies in the east." And a voice came out from the turret. What? I don't have any enemies in the east. And he called out, oh, well then, thou doest now. I was running around creating situations, making things worse than they were. That doesn't mean you don't engage. That doesn't mean that you don't deal with things as guided, but you do so under guidance. Allowing things to be what they are, accepting yourself exactly as you are, and then moving from that place within you. Remember what Jesus said? He said, the kingdom of heaven is where? Out there when you go out and fix it. Or when I can finally accomplish the things that I thought I was. I had a friend of mine saying, God sent me on earth to do a certain number of things, and I'm so far behind, I'm never going to die. It's like the idea that if the kingdom of heaven is when I get everything just exactly the way I want it, and when I make myself into that person that I want to be, instead of understanding that everything is as it is. Everything is, and yet it may not be exactly the way we want it to be, but we can accept things as they are and then endeavor to make the changes we need to. Allowing ourselves to be who we are, and then the changes will come naturally, and then we can give ourselves over to them. When I went skiing with my daughter when she was 6 years old, she'd taken skiing lessons all morning, and then we went up to the top of the hill, and I mapped out this perfect beginner's trail that she could go down to with me, and we did fine. She did great. We got to a certain place, and they didn't put it on the map clearly. It was like, I don't know if it was a black diamond or it was blue, but whatever it wasn't for her at the age of 6 after her first lesson. So I'm trying to help her pick her way down the hill. She's going like this, and she's like falling down and everything, and then she just turns to me and says very sternly, no, Daddy, I'm going to do it my way. Turned and went straight down the hill. She made it beautifully because she trusted. You have to trust the process, and you've got to throw yourself into the process. You've got to give yourself over to the process. I give myself over to the process. Together, I give myself over to the process. Because realize the process is here to heal you. The process of life is here to heal you, if you let it. This can only bless me. This can only heal me. Together, this can only bless me. This can only heal me. When I was in that circumstance 30 years ago, I was trying to get all these conditions to change instead of understanding that I needed to cooperate with them, and I had to cooperate with the process. So I created a sign, and it said, this can only bless me. This can only heal me. And I worked with it, and I worked with it, and I worked with it. And whenever somebody called me on the phone with their hair on fire, I would just say, this can only bless me, this can only heal me. And ideas would pop into my head, creative solutions, things I'd never thought of before. And I would work with them. And things worked out not according to my dictates, but according to the highest good. You see this? We can create our reality, they say, and that is true, but we create our reality in concert with the highest good for all concerned. And that includes conditions not being exactly the way we want them to be, because the point of the physical plane is not to give us what we want, literally, but rather to give us those lessons that will grow us and give us that experience of life that will move us out of our comfort zones. Yes, our comfort zones, those places that we want to stay stuck in, that will move us out of those places where, where we would just stay forever if these circumstances didn't come up. And we need to embrace them and know that they are there to be the making of us. Yes, that situation you're thinking of right now is there to be the making of you. It is the thing that is going to transform you. It is the thing that is going to bless you beyond blessing as you embrace it, as you work with it. But you've got to do something with it. You've got to let go of your personal engagement and entanglement. You've got to release it. And I didn't put down that it was by Myrtle Fillmore, but it's right outside of the fellowship hall. And I want you to pick up a copy of this. It's on the table. It is a very simple instruction of the most simple, and I love the simple techniques. The simplest of all techniques is called the letter to God. And you say, letter to God? Is there a cosmic post office somewhere? Somebody, put a cosmic stamp on it? That's so primitive. I've grown beyond that. I'm more metaphysical than now. But move past this and just realize the simplest things, the most childlike. Jesus said, become as a child. And that means do something that's simple, that's easy. Easy does it. This is what she wrote. Sometimes I have written a letter to God when I wanted to be sure that something would have divine consideration and love and attention. I've written that letter and laid it away in the assurance that the eyes of the loving and all-wise Father were seeing my letter and knowing my heart and working to find ways to bless me and to help me to grow. So now I suggest that you write a letter to God, telling and putting into words that which your heart holds and hopes for. Have faith that God sees your letter and your heart. After you've placed your heart's desires with God, don't be anxious or worried or negative. Don't even look for signs that God has responded. Just busy yourself with the work that He gives and with study and prayer to develop yourself into a real companion and a real radiator of happiness and inspiration. And as you do so, you will become a radiating center towards which those are drawn who will add to your happiness and cooperate with you in making of your life a beautiful success. And then you can let go of it. Then you can cooperate with it. Then whatever shows up is forwarding your good. You say, yes, but what about that thing? What about the thing I really don't want to happen? What if it happens? Or what if it is happening? Or if it did happen? You know, there's that wonderful story about Thomas Edison. He had that incredible, when he was at the height of his success, he had that incredible lab in Menlo Park, New Jersey. And it caught on fire. And of course, with all the things they had within it, it was a raging conflagration. And nobody was hurt in the fire, but everybody rushed down. He was with his son, and he said, take a look at that. He pointed to it. He says, go get your mother. She'll never see anything like this as long as she lives. He says, you know, destruction and disaster are our friends, because now all of our mistakes have burned up. 3 weeks later, he invented the phonograph in a makeshift studio. Now you say, well, what is this? You have to be flexible. You've got to be willing to move with it. You know, I think back on these situations in my life, like that one 30 years ago, my hair on fire moment, when I thought, you know, if I could just get this thing locked down, if I could just get the result that I want, if I could just get things the way I want them, then I'll be happy. Instead of, I'm happy, meaning I am satisfied, embracing with my wholehearted being the satisfaction and joy and calm peace of my soul. And the circumstances are going to work through me to create the spiritual growth I need. You know, they've done all those studies. Remember that one about people who win the lottery? And I believe it was the happiness set point before they got the lottery and after they got the lottery. In 6 months, they're back to where they were. And people who had amputations, there's a negative one. It took 2 years and they were back to their happiness set point. Circumstances in life ultimately, only on the short term, give you anything. It is your own consciousness that creates the calm peace of your soul. It is your own consciousness that creates the satisfaction and growth in your life. You may have circumstances come and go up and down, and those are not going to give it to you only on a short-term basis. And we like those. It's a good thing. And when there are bad things, you shouldn't pretend like you're not going through it, but you process it, you release it, you loose it, you let it go, you fully and freely release it, you allow it to be what it is. How do you do that? One way is to not marinate in your feelings, but to release them. And another thing I've got right outside on that table outside of Fellowship Hall is something I often bring up, which is something called the agitated energy process, which is embedded in the question and answer process. My mentor 20 years ago, Dr. Mary Allen, psychiatrist out in California, she attended my services and she taught me a lot of things. But one of the things she taught me is what to do with negative emotions. Now, I was raised in Unity, and I thought the thing I had to do with negative emotions was deny them. I am not feeling this. As Dr. Phil would say, how's that working for you? And it doesn't. So what do? I got to be real. But I don't want to marinate in my feelings. I don't want to pretend like they're not having them. But I don't want to be victimized by them. What do? You use your feelings to show you what's going on internally, and then you work through the circumstances, and you use them to create the growth in your life. And this is how you do it. You ask yourself the question, what am I feeling? What is this agitated energy that I'm feeling? And then you write it down. It's fear, it's sadness, it's anger. Usually one of those three in some form. It's an agitated energy because the load of the washing machine of your soul in its spin cycle is unbalanced. Now, you know how it goes faster and faster and faster, and it goes wham, wham, wham. We got a washing machine that'll walk across the room. What do? You rebalance the load. So what this is, that feeling you're having is the wham, wham, wham of your unbalanced load. And you balance out the load. So what am I feeling? I'm feeling sadness. Okay. This is how you rebalance your load. What false belief am I holding that creates that sadness? And you let that surface. I think these people should behave differently than they do. Or I think I'm going to be destroyed by this situation. Or whatever the fear is. Or whatever the sadness is. Or whatever the anger is. Whatever the false belief is. And you write it down. And then you ask, what true belief would calm me? And that is the rebalancing of the load. Lynn's got a natural knack for that. Like I can go and I can rebalance the doggone load 5 or 6 times and it still went. She just goes, whip, and it's done. But this is a natural thing. Now, in Unity we talk a lot about affirmations. And affirmations are powerful things. You may get an affirmation from Daily Word magazine every morning. You might get an affirmation from Silent Unity when you ask them for prayer. But the most powerful and effective affirmations are those that come to you naturally when you do this. When you uncover your false beliefs, which are like negative affirmations, and then ask what true belief would calm me, something will surface naturally like, the power that is in me is greater than this circumstance. Or whatever, but it comes naturally from within you. And that affirmation comes from that being that is within you, that presence of pure being that exists within you that is ready and always willing to spring forth into action to move you into that new place of growth. So that in every situation in your life you can say, this can only bless me. Together? This can only bless me. This can only heal me. Together? This can only heal me. But we've got to get off of judging ourselves. We've got to let go of judging ourselves. When you learn the multiplication tables in 4th grade and you got one of them wrong, you didn't beat yourself up. You just went in and you learned them again. Condemning ourselves for making mistakes is like burning down your house for having cockroaches. You got to go in and take care of the problem, yes, but understanding that you are not junk. You are the perfection of God. You are a son or a daughter of the Most High God, made in the image and likeness of God, in a process of unfolding perfection. And that unfolding perfection comes from the perfection within you out. And there is that perfection within you. And it isn't perfect behavior. It isn't perfect belief systems. But it is perfect being that is moving out and exposing and releasing into the sunlight all of the false beliefs that you're holding about yourself so that you can rebalance your load and spin faster. Because you see, as things begin to spin in your life, as you bring more energy and vibration, spiritual growth, learning and knowledge into your soul, you start spinning faster. You notice at the beginning of the spin cycle, it doesn't bang. Just kind of makes a little noise. But as you spin it, it starts, and the faster things go, the more you notice this thing. It's kind of like the light. If you bring in more light, you notice the dust. And you then can clean it up. And so each one of us can make this decision. One of the places where our false beliefs are most readily exposed, especially the false beliefs that we somehow are run by something outside of us, is in our relationships with other people. But I remember that time, I think I've shared it, where I was at a small group seminar with Robert Schuller. He invited a group of ministers to meet together, and at the end he took some questions, and one of them said, what do I do when I'm dealing with people saying this and that? And he said, I just outlast them. And I'm the old moon in the sky, and I just keep shining, and dogs can bark at it and howl at it, but the moon's just going to keep on shining. You make the decision, you're not going to let circumstances or opinions affect the calm peace of your soul. You can learn from it, you can listen to it, you can do whatever, but you don't buy into it. Good example of this was, and I think I may have shared this, I had a roommate when I was in college. We'd met at the Youth of Unity when we were 15. I was in the bunk below him. And then he moved out to California, and he was in school, working full-time, but also in school to become a comedian. He ended up becoming an artist, but he was a comedian during that time. He was going to learn how to do that. And he took classes, at night in San Francisco. And he came back, he says, I want you to remember this name, Robin Williams. He's in my class. And he says, he's the funniest guy I ever met. And then he got his break that summer. But he said, he told me something, and I'll never forget this. He said that if you're working a room and there are 24 tables and they're all laughing and there's a 25th table and they're sitting there looking at you and they're not getting it, don't play to the 25th table or you're going to lose the 24. Focus on that which is positive and affirming. Focus on that which is giving you the wherewithal to do what it is you're supposed to do. And focus on that which you can do something about. Remember the old serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. You cannot change every circumstance in your life. You cannot change all the people, places, and things. Give me the courage to change the things I can. What can you change? Not sitting under the pigeon tree. What can you change? Your own attitudes and beliefs. And the wisdom to know the difference. And where does that come from? Intuition. Intuition. Meditation is the rising above of the circumstances, all the opinions that you hold about yourself or anything else out there. You say, I don't know how to meditate. We'll have a little exercise then in a minute. But it's the easiest thing in the world because it's a natural part of you. It's an exercise of a muscle maybe that you're not using. Have you ever done some exercise and you use a muscle you don't usually use? The muscle was always there, and boy, it'll let you know it's there. And so when you first start to meditate, you notice it's kind of like that. It's, oh, this isn't, what is this? It's uncomfortable. But once you start to use it, it's a natural part of yourself. And one of the best ways to do it is to take a familiar prayer, or make it familiar by memorizing it. The prayer of St. Francis, the Lord's Prayer, the 23rd Psalm. Our opening, this is the one I use almost every day, pretty much every day. I am now in the presence of pure being. Take something and work with it slowly. You know, in the ARE bookstore, Edgar Casey had a three-step meditation method. It's the easiest doggone thing in the world. You take the affirmative statement and say it aloud. Then you say it silently. And then you feel it and experience it. And stay in that feeling until your mind wanders. And then take the next line. You say, well, it should be more cosmic than that. It should be more woo-woo than that. No. You say, well, that's not really meditation. What happens is you generate a consciousness through your consciousness that lifts you naturally. It generates an energy. Every Tuesday night, a group of us, 12, 20 people, join together in this room. It's open to everyone. It's 6 o'clock. We meditate together. You say, I don't know how to meditate. Just do this one exercise. Do this one exercise. It doesn't require that you climb a mountain and sit in a cave. It just requires that you take this time for 5 minutes a day. Start with this. Move with this. And you'll find that you will lift up above and separate from the attachment, the engagement, and the entanglement that your soul has gotten itself into with the situation where you're doing battle needlessly with the enemies to the east, creating more of them. And you'll move up into a consciousness where you can see. You know, reconnaissance. You get above and you can see, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. But when you're down on that level, you can't see anything. You've got to change the perspective of your consciousness. You've got to move to a new place of your being where the answers are obvious. And you know the beauty of it is it'll sneak up on you. We said last week in our answered prayer for dummies rules, remember we talked about that one, that it sneaks up on you. The answer will sneak up on you. A watched pot never boils, they say, and a watched thought never gives you the answer. You do the lifting up, you ask the question, you release it, and then something happens. You begin to realize oh, I know what to do. I don't know how I knew what to do. Oh, you find yourself doing it. You find yourself going straight down the mountain like my daughter did. You find yourself doing the thing that you didn't realize you were supposed to do. And it was because you took that 5 minutes. As I said last week, as a friend of mine put it, when I pray, coincidences happen. When I don't, they don't. And so it's like this coincidence will start to happen. So it's time for us to do this. You know, this is a little meditation technique, a little mini experience of what we do on Tuesday night. I want you to try this out. Set down what you have in your hand and And just try this. You start with something physical. So at your own rate, breathe in slowly and hold your breath as long as you want to. And when you're ready, you let it out slowly. And continue this process, slowing it down at your own rate, not following my words. Just each time, slowing it down a little more. And as you breathe in each time, imagine light coming into your lungs, along with your breath. And each time you hold your breath a little longer, the light glows around you and radiates. And each time you breathe out, you let go of any tension. Just keep doing this more slowly each time, with greater and greater light and brightness. And as you hold your breath each time, the light fills the room and embraces and merges with everyone else's. And now you allow your breathing to return to its natural rate, and imagine a body of water that is still, calm, without a ripple upon its surface, mirroring the sky. Perhaps seeing the clouds mirrored on the surface of this still water. Still waters allow the sediment to settle to the bottom, becoming crystal clear and pure. And so you notice that these waters not only mirror the sky perfectly, but they also are still and crystal all the way to the very depths of being. Rest for a moment in the realization of this stillness and know that your mind reflects the higher mind of God, that which is above. Your feelings are clear and pure to the very depths of your beingness. Hold this image. And now release this image and take something that you're praying about, but see it as whole and free and clear. It could be words or it could be a picture. Whatever it is, it could be a word or a name or anything. But see it whole and surrounded in a pink bubble. A pink bubble representing the love of God that knows how to work everything out. And then see it moving up, up, up into the sky, up high into the blueness of this beautiful sky. The pink surrounded by the blue, getting smaller and smaller until finally it disappears. You wonder, is it even there? And then it's gone. And you've released it, and you feel a sense of well-being. Rest in this sense of well-being. Thank you, God, that we've released it, we've let it go, and we are free. And so it is. Amen. So once again, take a deep breath and let it out with the silent, easy does it. Easy does it. Not my hair's on fire and I'm running around, but easy does it. And letting go into this moment. Everything is perfect exactly as it is. Yes, conditions can change, but I can only change them effectively to the extent that I come from that place of calm peace within my soul. And so I take another deep breath and I let it out. Easy does it. Easy does it. I let everything be as it is. I watch conditions rise and fall. I observe my thoughts and my feelings. Easy does it. I take all the thoughts of my mind and I just let them go. And I let my heart mind be a presence of calm peace, of stillness and openness. I take all my emotions and I let them flow with ease and grace. And I bask in the sunlight of this well-being. All is well. All is well. And I let my body, my physical body, be what it is. I become aware of every sensation within my body, and one by one I let them all go. And now I let myself lift up, up, into the calm peace of my soul, up above the mundane, everyday thoughts, feelings, and sensations. And in this place, all is well in this now moment. My every need is met in this moment. I feel a sense of peace, well-being, wholehearted satisfaction, embracing life as it is, allowing things to be as they are, and seeing myself as the perfection of God, expressing exactly as I am. Nothing added. I let everything be, and I rest. Thank you, God, that all is well and nothing can disturb the calm peace of my soul. And I go forth into my world renewed and refreshed, awakened and invigorated with a new sense of satisfaction, energy, and life. So be it, and so it is. And now as our offering is ready, we take as our offering statement, I give in a space of ease and grace, and I receive in a space of ease and grace. Together, I give in a space of ease and grace, and I receive in a space of ease and grace. And silently. And again aloud together. I give in a space of ease and grace, and I receive in a space of ease and grace. And so it is. Amen.